Welcome back to Harbour Unboxed. It's time for the June Q&A. We've got plenty of questions lined up, so I think we should probably just get into them. Okay, first question. Will we see a drop in RAM prices after the $8 billion scandal about price fixing? I'll let you handle that one, Tim.
Yeah, I've sort of been vaguely following this one. I think the $8 billion figure at the moment is only really a theoretical maximum amount for what they can fine them. So it's not clear what amount they'll actually be fined, and even if they'll be found guilty at all. Usually with these things, there's appeals and all that sort of process. So hopefully it'll scare manufacturers into increasing supply for especially consumer DRAM and make prices go down. But it's always hard to say with these sort of things, especially when it comes to antitrust stuff.
Yep, we'll just have to wait and see. All right, I'll read this next question out and we'll get Tim to answer again because it's again about the $8 billion fine for the DRAM price fixing. Since you answered the last one, you can handle this one as well. Basically, the question goes, who will the money go to and will this impact those that have already bought memory at a higher price? So they give the GTX 970 as an example there. So will they be refunded money, I assume is what they're asking there.
Yeah, and I think generally with these sort of price fixing things in government investigations, it doesn't go back to the consumers. It definitely goes straight to the government. So the government, I think in this case, the Chinese government will be getting a nice payday there. Usually if you want to get your money back, you have to class action sue them, which was the case with the 970. People got together and sued them, and then NVIDIA was forced to give the money back. So yeah, I think there is a class action suit happening for the DRAM stuff, but definitely this investigation will have nothing to do with people getting their money back.
Yeah, unfortunately, it always ends up being more trouble than it's worth for the general consumer.
Okay, so you have a question here on broken components. Have you ever encountered a PC component damaged/broken due to static electricity? Do you take precautions against this happening yourself? Seems to me opinions are split on the merits of static protection, especially on the wristbands. What do you reckon?
Well, we don't really have much hardware that gets broken anyway, and definitely nothing that I could say was due to static electricity.
Yeah.
So I would say, well, we don't take any precautions, so that's fair to say. It's really not practical when you're showing a motherboard on camera, we're holding something or a stick of memory. It's just doesn't really work that well. It doesn't really make sense for what we're doing because we haven't paid for the hardware. And in my opinion, you'd be very unlucky, would you say?
Yeah, very unlucky.
So I don't think it's a big deal. Having said that, if you'd paid me to build a computer for you and it was your hardware that I was dealing with, then yes, we would take some safety precautions just out of respect for your stuff. But for my own stuff, I'm willing to take the risk because it's just a lot easier to do our job.
All right, so we've got a question here on the expectations on future tech in general, e.g. DDR5 on newer platforms. Is DDR5 near and will it affect the state of Ryzen's compatibility promises? What would you like to see from future hardware, CPUs, GPUs, also storage, chassis, all that sort of thing?
Okay, well, I'll start with that one. I don't think we're expecting mainstream support for DDR5 for quite a few years yet. So it's exciting stuff, but it's probably going to be a few years before we're really benchmarking with it and seeing it used regularly. So it'll be great for Ryzen, I think. It'll probably help solve a lot of problems there. And I think compatibility will be quite good because Ryzen will be established and it won't be like the whole starting from scratch with DDR4. As for what we really want to see, I think at the moment it's fair to say we really want to see new GPU technology. So we're sort of hanging out for that from NVIDIA and AMD. So I think that'll be exciting, in particular next year. And well, hopefully that ends up arriving before DDR5 does, because like I said, that'll be a few years away. We should have some new GPUs in that time. Oh, and as for storage and cases, that stuff doesn't really excite us too much on the channel. High-speed storage is always great, but it's often hard to show the advantage of that for gamers. So don't get too excited about that. And cases don't really excite us too much either. So again, it's really the GPUs and CPUs. We're keen to benchmark any new GPUs or CPUs that come our way. Okay, next question. Pretty simple one here. Why don't we review audio cards? So that is sound cards. Basically, I have no personal interest or really expertise in audio and sound cards, so don't really care to be testing them out. And I think the main reason I haven't got into them or excited about them is because I think most of you guys feel the same way as well. I'd say most of our audience doesn't really care about reviews on sound cards, and probably most of you guys don't use them. And it seems to be a split thing. People either swear by having a sound
Yeah,
card or just say that's rubbish, waste of money, I'm happy with onboard. They're certainly good, but you have to we have to have a want for one, I suppose, or a want and need.
Yeah. Bit of a niche thing these days, I would have thought.
I would have thought so. Okay, next question. It seems many game developers have been hesitant to fully embrace DirectX 12, even 3 years into its release. Is this due to the requirement for Windows 10 or the overwhelming amount of people who dislike that OS and are still on Windows 7? If so, do you think DirectX 12 will ever be made backwards compatible for Windows 7, sorry? And how about future DirectX releases?
Yeah, I'm not sure there's overwhelming dislike for Windows 10. Both of us use it and find that it's fine. And, according to the Steam hardware survey, more than half of all gamers are running Windows 10, and only 35% of gamers actually have a DirectX 12 compatible GPU but aren't running Windows 10. I think it's probably pretty interesting that they've made that decision, but that's for them, I guess. But I think the actual reason we aren't seeing more DX12 games is it's much more complex to code for DX12 because it's much closer to the metal. You need to have a lot more expertise to use the API compared to DirectX 11. So I don't really think the restriction of Windows 10 is holding developers back. It's just it's more complex, and a lot of engines that are currently being used are still sort of similar to the DirectX 11 era. So yeah, I think once we start seeing more game engines getting refreshed, we'll start to see more DirectX 12. As for porting it back to Windows 7, I don't think Microsoft has any incentive at all to do that.
Definitely won't happen.
So probably won't happen, and all future DirectXs as well, I think, will be, restricted to whatever's the latest generation OS. So yeah, can't see Microsoft doing that.
Okay, next question. Do you think with the nanometer advancements of AMD, will there be a grand shift in market share, consumer and enterprise?
Yeah, it's not really AMD that are specifically making the process advancements. That's more TSMC, and I think specifically Global Foundries for AMD. But if AMD, if they can get good gains out of 7 nanometer, and Intel, if they continue to struggle with their 10 nanometer and lower, Intel will definitely struggle to compete on, performance and power consumption with their new chips. So that could bring about a shift in market share in both segments for AMD in their favor. But, it's hard to say what will happen there with both those companies. Intel could come out and suddenly have a working 10 nanometer and there'll be competition again. And, AMD is also doing other cool stuff, with multi-die technology. So, yeah, I think that it'll definitely even up in terms of market share. But will there be a big shift? It's always hard to say.
Hard to say. Short term, I think it's definitely going to be advantage AMD by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
But beyond that, who knows?
Yeah. All right, this is a good question for you, Steve. Does GPU power really matter these days for gaming, considering you can lower the settings and have a decent gameplay experience even with the GTX 1050?
Okay, well, yeah, I don't think anything's really changed there. You've always been able to lower the quality settings, so that's not something new. Although not a game developer, I imagine they basically have a look at the hardware that's available at the time of releasing their game and through the development process, and they'll make that game designed for that hardware. So your ultra type quality settings will be for your GTX 1080 Ti's, your 1080s and Vega 64. The high quality settings will work on your mid-range cards, the 1060, the RX 580. And then your sort of medium to lower settings will work on your GTX 1050, as you've said. So nothing really different there. There's just games are designed to scale across a wide range of PC hardware. All right, next question. What's better for a college student in dorms, a gaming laptop or desktop? It's my first time getting a PC and getting a dorm, so congratulations. I'm not sure which is better for the situation.
Yeah, I mean, having used a lot of gaming laptops, I like gaming laptops, but if you're on a budget, gaming desktops, they're almost always more cost effective in terms of, getting performance for your dollar. And of course, you can upgrade them so you can choose to, put in a really budget, especially AMD CPU, and then, continue to upgrade that as you go. And you can make them pretty compact as well with sort of your mini systems. So unless you want to specifically play multiple games in multiple locations, like, in your dorm and then in your lecture theatre when you're not paying attention, I think the desktop is the way better choice.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty simple, that one. If you need the gaming system to be portable and it has to move around with you, whether you want to use it on the train or whatever, then you have to get a laptop. But if the laptop is pretty much going to sit in your dorm room just to be played games on, then you're far better off with the desktop PC.
Yep.
So it's really simple.
All right, what does Tim and Steve do to wind down after a long day unboxing the benchmarks?
Good question. I personally usually go to bed.
Hard worker, yeah.
Yeah, getting a bit too old for it now. Now, when I've finished up, I usually go spend some time with my family. I've got 2 young girls, so go play with them, and then I go to bed.
Yeah, I don't have kids, so I'm lucky in that
Tim
regard.
is a kid.
Yeah, no one to bother me when I'm finished my benchmarking, so I just sit around, watch TV, play some games,
Build
have
some
a good
Lego.
time. Yeah, build some Lego, all that fun stuff. So, yeah, and then I go to bed probably a bit later than you because you're an old man.
He's got a hard life. Okay, next question. I like this one. Did the dislikes on the joke 2080 video affect the channel at all? Well, I'll let you start with that.
We'll find out in a few days for sure once we get the detailed stats from YouTube. But not really at this point. I think the YouTube algorithm doesn't really take into account likes and dislikes all that much compared to at least a few other metrics that we know of. So we probably did lose a few subscribers who didn't get the joke video and were a bit annoyed at our clickbait. But overall, we had a fairly normal day in terms of subscribers, and we got good traffic on the video. So as far as we're concerned, obviously it's always disappointing to get a video that has the most dislikes ever, but really in terms of our traffic and everything, I don't think it'll have too much of an impact.
No, I'm not too concerned about it. It didn't come off probably as well as we were hoping it would, but it probably came off as well as we thought it might.
Yeah, we knew there were going to be lots of dislikes.
Yeah, we knew it probably wouldn't be that well received, but the Patreon members were really pushing us to do it, and we thought it was funny. I had fun making the video, and I thought it was quite funny, and I also thought that and I think this is probably true for our core audience, most of our subscribers, the thumbnail probably gave away that it wasn't a serious video, and the title, even the original title, was quite silly.
Yeah, even just 10 seconds into the video.
And 10 seconds in when I said, welcome back to hardware fabricated out of thin air, I thought that was probably going to set a few people off. And then I think it was probably only about 30 seconds after that, I said we got all this information from a booth babe that whispered it in Tim's ear. I thought by that point it would have been crystal clear, but apparently not. So anyway, we had fun making it. Don't really regret it.
No
regrets. Got a lot of dislikes, but it's still got a lot of likes. So, you probably, when you do a video like that for a bit of fun, you're always going to upset a few people that sort of seem to think
upset all the people that love the rumors that really wanted legit info from us. Sorry, guys.
So anyway, it's not something we're going to make a habit of.
Yeah. Okay, this is a really interesting question, I think. Every time there's a new ARM processor from Qualcomm or Apple, massive performance gains are advertised. How do they manage to make so much progress in a few months? Are these performance claims fabricated with special benchmarks? Why aren't x86-based processors development on pace anywhere near that of ARM processors? So, yeah, really interesting question. There's a couple of reasons for it, and I don't really think it's due to special benchmarks or cheating or anything like that. It's just simply down to ARM processors are a lot more simple compared to x86 in terms of their architecture, and there's a lot of performance tricks in x86 that's been developed over the years that haven't yet made the transition to ARM. Even now, things like boost clocks are not really a thing with ARM processors. So with each new ARM processor, they're sort of adding in some of these things from x86 and the lessons learned with other architectures to sort of improve performance. And on top of that, ARM processors are benefiting a lot from new process technologies that are specific to low power chips. So things that wouldn't be suitable for, Intel or AMD, high power CPUs, things like Samsung 10 nanometer, for example. So they're often accessing those new nodes. And on top of that, they're adding in extra tricks each time, making the CPU cores wider and doing all that sort of thing. x86 is probably a bit closer to being tapped out in terms of its like performance tricks and different things they can do. It's mostly just, clock speeds and cores at this point. So yeah, that's why I think x86 is a bit slower, and we seem to see, 30% each generation with ARM, which is certainly very impressive. All right, another question here. What games do you guys play in your spare time, if any? Yeah, when we have some time.
Yeah, if any, there are keywords there. Well, I used to play a lot of StarCraft 2, which I know quite a few of you are aware of now, and I really enjoyed that game, played that quite seriously, but I haven't opened up StarCraft 2 now for at least 6 months. I've been playing the odd game here and there. I played a little bit of Fortnite, had a lot of fun with that. That's a pretty cool game, but never really got a handle on how to play that one really well. I'm going to play Battlefield 5 when that comes out. I've been playing a little bit of Overwatch lately. I always enjoy Overwatch. I keep coming back to that one, so I've got into it a bit more recently than I have so in the past. But yeah, that's a good one. But sadly, between benchmarks and whatnot and doing the channel, there's not a lot of time for gaming, as we sort of alluded to at the start of this question. So yeah, what about you, Tim?
Yeah, I'd enjoy like the multiplayer games like StarCraft, and not as much into like Fortnite and Overwatch. I played a bit, but more into sort of Battlefield. So definitely Battlefield 5 comes out. We'll get in some matches together.
Yep.
Things like Star Wars Battlefront 2, all that sort of games. I played those, but most of them more into sort of like the single player games, like your role playing games, your sort of Assassin's Creed type games.
Okay.
So yeah, I tend to just smash some of those out. It's a lot of fun just to sit there and play some single player games just to decompress after some work. So yeah, it's not bad, but again, not that much time to do it. So just squeezing it in here and there.
Yeah, it's good to take a bit of a break and have a bit of a gaming session, but gone are the days of the 10-hour gaming sessions.
Yeah, unless I have like a weekend day free or something, but
That's
even
not gonna
then,
happen.
yeah.
Okay, we're going to hit pause on the Q&A for now. We've had a good amount of questions answered there, I think, and we'll pick this up again probably tomorrow. Depends on when Tim edits this. I'll get Tim to edit it, and we'll see how he goes. But anyway, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and we will see you again in another Q&A really soon. That'll be fine.